Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. Today we're talking about the first look of the Batman. Hey everybody, and welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I'm your host, Brent Cassina. I know I have not been on this channel in a while. It's been a lot of my friend Jim Afanis reviewing comics for you, but that's what he's good at. He's good at reading and getting videos out to you on time. He's just been a monster reading these books I'm giving to him so fast that I'm having a hard time finding stuff to talk about or reading myself. So that's why there's been an absence of Brent on this channel. Good news is I got two videos for you tonight. First one, I'm talking about the Batman, and then another one doing my review of the Harley Quinn Birds of Prey movie. But let's talk about what we're here to talk about the most, which is the Batman. Now, this film is coming out, I believe, next year. It's directed by Matt Reeves, who did War for Planet of the Apes, and the last two most recent Planet of the Apes movies. I know War for the Planet of the Apes was one of them. I forget the second one, if it was like Attack or Rise or something like that. Maybe Rise was the first one. It's confusing. Anyway, he's a pretty good director. I really like the last two movies he did, and now he's directing the Batman at Warner Brothers with Robert Pattinson as our Bruce Wayne / Batman. We've got Colin Farrell coming in as Oswald Cobblepot, the Penguin. I was going to say the Joker. Zoe Kravitz is doing rounds of interviews for her Hulu series and talking about being Catwoman a little bit right now. So lots of Batman news may be coming, but this is the first notable thing that I have seen, and it was released today, the day before Valentine's Day in 2020, February 13th. So there was a short little thing posted on Vimeo where it's like a simple pan up from the bottom of Pattinson's chest up to maybe about here on his forehead. You don't see any ears or anything like that, but we did get a pretty good look at the suit. I managed to take some screenshots on my iPad and lighten them up in the photo editing software so we can see them a little bit better, because it is a really, really dark video. He's under a red light now. I'm sure when they shot it, he was not actually that dark. I'm sure he was very well lit with bright red light, but they turned this down in the video editing to make it more mysterious and brooding, because this is a camera test, basically, of the Batman costume. Now, one caveat to say, I don't know if this is the final Batman costume, if it is purely a camera test of the costume, or if it's like even going to be the final costume in the movie. We don't even know that, so it may be something completely different, and we don't see very much of it. We see from like the bottom of his pectorals up to here, so it's like a box as big as my elbows, to right here. So it's not a whole lot. We can infer a lot, though, and that is the cool part, and that is what we are going to dissect in this video. For me, it's too soon to tell whether this is good or bad. I will wait until we get like not necessarily a full body shot, but something from like the waist up that lets me see the gloves, the gauntlets, the little scallops here on the side of his arm. I want to see the ears and how long the ears are. There's something about this angle too where Pattinson turns midway through and you get like this 3/4 view of his helmet and his face, which makes him look good in it, but I'm a little unsure about the cowl, so we'll get there. So I'm going to be inserting some screenshots inside this video as we talk about them, so be on the lookout. Now, these are not original to the video. These are screenshots that I then went into the iPad editing thing and just brightened up, did like an autocorrect, and then brought the shadows down a little bit so we'd get to see more detail. And I'm glad I did, because there is more detail in these photos as we'll get to see. So the first one I want to talk about, the shot starts down here on Batman's chest. We get to see the bat symbol, or what we think is the bat symbol. There are no ears on this bat symbol. It's just two wings, kind of almost like the original drawings of Batman in 1939, where you had, it was just the wings, basically. There was no head. And that's what it really, really looks like. The other thing we can notice right here in this first screenshot is his right shoulder. There's like a big piece of armor that's bolted in onto the rest of the costume. You can see a little bit of his left shoulder as well. And then they kind of pan over to his left shoulder and he shrugs a bit, and then he puts his shoulders down as they rise up, and you can see like the piece of armor. It's very reminiscent of the Arkham Knight video game costume, where he's very like plated and everything's like, I remember that first reveal trailer for the Arkham Knight game. They were doing the same thing. They were like panning up from his belt, showing you the new costume, and it looked very mechanized, and everything was like interlocking, and these metal plates were sliding over each other instead of like bumping in or being cloth on top of Kevlar type thing. This looks very battle ready, battle hardened, which is kind of an indicator of the type of Batman we're going to get, I think. I would say this is going to be like a leaner, meaner Batman per se. But, we looked at Ben Affleck in his Batsuit, and he was all bulky, and we got the meanest Batman we've ever seen on film. So this could be totally different. We have no idea. It's pure speculation. But it's very Arkham Knight inspired. I think that is the truth here. Now, is this also, maybe it's an underplate and we're going to get something over it? I don't know. But I think this is probably the close to final suit, because why would you release something that is not final, especially, they've started shooting already, and I think the reason they released this is maybe they're going to start shooting outside, and they wanted you to see the first glimpse of Batman before you got like all the paparazzi pics taking pictures of him. If you remember when Dark Knight Rises was shooting in Chicago, we saw all these pictures of Bane with his face mask fighting Batman in the sunlight, in the bright sunlight, which made for an epic finale. I love that finale. Love that fight scene, especially when the IMAX kicked in, when you saw it on the big IMAX screen. It was awesome. So I suspect maybe we're going to see some paparazzi shots, set leaks coming in after this because of their schedule, and that's maybe why they are releasing this piece of footage here. The other thing to note, we've got a bat cape that's tucked in right here along the neckline, and it's tucked in under his plates, like right here, and it's just folded back. It's like a classic Batman cape. It's everything you've seen drawn in the comics. It's classic Jim Lee Batman. It's not hooked on two little like epaulette things like the way Batman Begins or The Dark Knight was, and I think that is very cool. The other thing, so we move around his shoulder, his left shoulder after the shrug, and we pan up and see his chin, and he's kind of like Robert Pattinson. Batman's looking down, and you can see kind of like the cape, his cowl eyebrow line here that's sculpted in there. You can also see a bit of a collar, so it looks like maybe the cape has some sort of like neck protection in the back. There's like looks like a hard leather piece to his cowl. I think that is kind of cool. I like that idea. I just noticed that looking at this picture. I didn't notice it in the film, in the clip. The other thing to note is that it is not your traditional bat cowl. Your traditional bat cowl starts on the cheeks, goes out to about here, and comes down just outside like your mustache line. For me, my mustache does not connect, but Batman usually is like within these boundaries right here. So if you just... that's all you get of Batman. Sometimes we see the nose, the tip of the nose. Sometimes you don't see it at all. This one looks to be more like the Marvel Daredevil inspired, where it's covering the nose just barely. And now I have a very big fat nose here on the bottom, very round. Very nice if you like it. But so it basically creates a line all the way across his face to where his jaw is, like to his ears, and then drops down. So if you remember, the Daredevil cowl was basically just covering his ears with like a piece of cloth or something, and it was almost like a helmet. And this looks very much, as we pan up and he kind of turns, very much looks to be maybe one piece or two. Like it almost looks like as if he's wearing a big turtleneck sock that's covering underneath his chin right here, and then going up, covering his ears, and probably, I would assume, kind of coming up across his brow, and then he puts the mask on and attaches it, I don't know how, Batman way, that way. Because you can see on this last shot that I'm going to show you right here, if you zoom in a bit, you can see like it's purely like a piece of sculpted and sewn leather. So maybe this is an early Batman, which is kind of what led me there to begin with. You can see like a little stitching on the nose here. You can see like a little piping on the bottom of like where you would like fold the leather over, and then because you stitched it, you would kind of get this ridge line. And then you can also see some stitching around the eyebrow here on his left eyebrow of like where you took a second piece of leather and made it like the flat part against your brow, and then your nose, and then you kind of stitched two other pieces, along the sides of your eyes there. And then zooming in, you can also see that edge where it looks as if it's almost a separate piece. Like he just takes this mask, puts it on top of his face, and then goes from there. So Maybe his ears are much more forward than normal. Usually Batman ears are kind of in the back of your head piece here. They're drawn in the comics almost as if they're like straight up from the ears all the way up, and they start here. But the way we've seen our bat cowls has been a mixture of pieces. If you remember Christian Bale, he had the full head piece, and his ears kind of started at the back of his head, were sculpted to go forward to give it like this menacing look. And then, gosh, I don't even remember how Ben Affleck's looked because he almost had no ears. So I hope we get away from that. So I'm wondering if they're going to be more forward and maybe more bat-like, because if you actually look at a real bat, it's kind of like their ears are very forward of their little tiny head. They're like up here rather than back. So I wonder if that's going to be what we're seeing. The other thing you can see here very, very faintly, if you can zoom in, you can see his eyes. And he looks up, and then he kind of like turns a little bit and looks down or something like that, and then it like fades to black very quickly. So you can see his eyelashes, you can see his eyes. So we're not going to get any lenses or anything like that the way we did in Batman v Superman. This is like every other Batman you've seen. But the eye holes, I guess he's wearing black makeup, but they're not very big. Like they're as small as they possibly could be, I think, at least on the bottom. I'm not sure about the top. It's very hard to see and to make out. But something you can definitely tell are this leather texture and these stitched edges. And I think that is cool. So that kind of leads me to believe that this is maybe an early version of the Batman costume that we're going to see on film. And then maybe it evolves by the end of the film. Maybe we get something later. Maybe this is just a test. I don't know. But I don't think you would release this unless it were very close to what the audience is going to see on screen and in the promotional materials. So that is our look at Batman from Matt Reeves. I am hopeful and optimistic as always until we actually see the film. You know, the Ben Affleck suit looked fantastic and great, and I was really excited. And then I saw Batman v Superman, and then I got really bummed out because the movie was not good. So we are going to withhold judgment until we see the film and the suit in action. And I recommend you do the same. Don't hate on everything just because it's dark or hard to see or whatever. And, don't make judgments before you actually see the movie. You got to withhold and wait for reviews or wait for the preview and then see the movie for yourself before you make a judgment. I think you should do that with most things in pop culture. Just wait until it comes out and then make a judgment on it instead of blowing up. But this type of stuff is fun to talk about, especially on my channel where I did a 45-minute video comparing all the different Batsuits on film. So I will link that at the end titles there, and you can go check that out. So as always, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the funny pages.